It's time to recognize that you play a key role not only in Russia, but also in the world. Because billions of people pin their hopes on you for international justice, for the protection of human dignity, and for the protection of traditional values. What is it like to feel such a scale of responsibility? To be honest, I don't feel it at all. I simply work in the interests of Russia, in the interests of our people. Yes, I understand what you are talking about now, and I am ready to comment on it. But for me to feel like some kind of arbiter of the world's destinies, this is not the case. Believe me, it's not even close. I am simply fulfilling my duty to Russia and to our people who consider Russia their motherland. As for other countries in the world, this is very closely related to how they treat us around the world. This is interesting. It's such a phenomenon, that's for sure. What I would like to draw your attention to, here you are absolutely right. Many people in the world are looking at us, at what is happening in our country and in our struggle for our interests, and, in my opinion, this is important. Why is this happening? This is not because we are formally members of BRICS or because we have any traditional relations with Africa. This is also important, but, in my opinion, the point is completely different. It lies in the fact that this so-called golden billion for centuries, 500 years, they practically parasitized other nations. They tore apart the unfortunate peoples of Africa. They exploited Latin America. They exploited the countries of Asia, and, of course, no one has forgotten this, and I have a feeling that it's not even about the leadership of these countries, although this is very important. But ordinary citizens of these countries feel in their hearts what is happening. They connect our struggle for their independence and true sovereignty with their hopes for their own sovereignty and independent development. But this is aggravated by the fact that there is a very strong desire among Western elites to freeze the existing unjust state of affairs in international affairs. For centuries they have been accustomed to filling their bellies with human flesh and filling their pockets with money. But they must understand that the vampire ball is ending. Are you hinting? As you put it in your address, at their colonial habits, are you talking about this? Everything happens this way, yes. But now you have painted a completely fair picture when people see some kind of hope in Russia. How did it happen? That Western propaganda, with all its power, with its colossal resources and tools, could not turn Russia into a puppet, isolate it and create a false image for it. Although they sought to do this in the heads of billions of people, how did it happen? Because what I just said is more important to people. People feel this in their hearts all over the world. They don't even need any pragmatic explanations for the events taking place. That is, this is despite the flow of the dirt? Yes, well, in their own countries they are still fooling people, and it is having an effect. In many countries they believe that this is in their interests because they do not want to have such a huge country like Russia on their borders, the largest country in the world by territory, the largest country in Europe by population. We do not have a very large population in global terms. It cannot be compared with either China or India, but it is the largest in Europe. And now we have the fifth largest economy in the world. Well, why do they need such a competitor? No, they think that it would be better, as some American experts have suggested, to divide Russia into 3, 4, or 5 parts. They think it will be better for everyone. They proceed from this. And, in any case, part of the Western elites, blinded by their Russophobia, Were delighted when they brought us to the point after which our attempts to stop the war unleashed by the West in Ukraine by force began in 2014. When we moved on to conducting a special military operation, they were even happy about it, I think, because they believed that now they would finish with us, that now, under this barrage of sanctions, practically a sanctions war declared on us, with the help of Western weapons, and with the help of a war at the hands of Ukrainian nationalists, that they would finish with Russia. This is where the slogan came from, to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield. But later they realized that this was unlikely, and even later they realized that it was impossible. And they came to understand that instead of strategic defeat, they were faced with powerlessness. And powerlessness, despite the fact that they relied on the power of the all-powerful United States, they were faced with powerlessness before the unity of the Russian people, before the fundamental foundations of the Russian financial and economic system, before its stability, and before the growing capabilities of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And then they began to think, those who are smarter, they began to think that they need to change some kind of strategy regarding the Russian Federation. And then the idea arose to resume the negotiation process in order to find some way to end this conflict, in order to try to take into account Russia's real interests. By the way, these are dangerous people. Because it is easier to fight with people who are guided by such base principles. Do you remember how people in Russia spoke? What was the source of happiness for some people at the everyday level? This is if you are well fed, drunk, and your nose is covered in tobacco, right? It's easier with such people when he's well fed, he's drunk, that is, when he's full and drunk. The nose is covered in tobacco because they used snuff. Your nose is covered in cocaine now, right? Never mind, it's easier with such people, but with smart people it's more difficult because they are more dangerous, because they influence the consciousness of society, including ours. They will throw in all their desires under the guise of carrots for us. You already drew attention to this when you asked a question about the possibility of a negotiation process. But nonetheless, this is where contradictions arose within the Western community. This is an obvious thing, we see it. We are not going to engage in splits there, they will do that themselves brilliantly, but, of course, we will strive to ensure that our interests are respected. I can't help but ask. Vladimir Vladimirovich, these attacks on the Belgorod and Kursk regions, these military actions that are taking place in our regions, the enemy is behaving more brazenly. Do they feel something? What causes this? There is a very simple explanation. All this is happening against a backdrop of their failures on the line of combat contact, on the front line. They did not achieve any of the goals they set for themselves last year, and, moreover, now the initiative has completely passed to our armed forces. Everyone knows this, everyone acknowledges this. I think I won't say anything new. But against the backdrop of those failures, they need to show at least something, and, mainly, attention should be focused on the information side of the matter. On the state borderline, the enemy tried to attack primarily with sabotage groups. The latest report of the General Staff says that there were up to 300 people there, including the participation of foreign mercenaries. Enemy losses amounted to more than 200 people, approximately 230. Of the 8 tanks used, the enemy lost 7. Of the 9 armored vehicles, the enemy lost 9, of which 7 were American-made armored vehicles, Bradley. They also used other armored vehicles, but mainly for transporting personnel. They transport soldiers, throw them out, and then they immediately leave. This is on the Belgorod section of the border, a little further south, in my opinion, in one place. There they operate with much smaller forces, but, nevertheless, their main goal, I have no doubt about it, is to, if not disrupt the presidential elections in Russia, then at least somehow interfere with the normal process of expressing the will of citizens. This is the first. Second, this is the information effect that I have already mentioned. Third, if they succeed at least something, then they want to get some chance, some argument, some trump card in a possible future negotiation process. Well, we will return this to you. And you will return this to us. But I said that with people who are guided by the principles that you are well fed, you are drunk, and that your nose is in known material, it is easier to talk to such people because you can predict what they are going to do. They will also try to act in some other sectors of the front, but we see this.